I think let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. K. Narayan, and welcome to this workshop. Some of you have seen videos that I posted on my YouTube channel, but if you have not, you can watch them later. They are available on the same channel where you are watching this webinar now. The reason I started this particular series, I call this the series on soul lessons. And the reason is, if you watch my very first video that's on spiritual research, and it goes into the areas of past life regression and near-death experiences. And the picture of reality we get from there is that this universe is a simulation that was built so that our true being can experience and learn. If that is the core purpose, the most important thing when you are here is to understand what are the lessons we are trying to learn, and then learn them in the best way possible. If we can do that, then the incarnation has served its purpose. So I started this series on soul lessons to talk about those lessons and how best to take advantage of the opportunities that are given to us. So the first lesson in that series is this lesson, which is choosing growth over comfort. Let's talk about why growth. The primary purpose of every incarnation is soul growth. Think of this as a partnership between you, the entity which has free will, and the universe. The universe is always going to play its part by giving you the opportunities to grow and learn. It will bring you the right people, the right circumstances, and the right opportunities so that you can grow and go to the next level in your evolution. As part of free will, whether we learn these lessons and the manner in which we learn them is up to us. But as long as we remember that the primary purpose of us being here is soul growth, we have the right priorities in front of us. Second reason is growth is joy. Think about all that you have learned since you came into this existence. These might be small things like learning to walk, or big things like relationships, parenthood, building businesses, leading people and communities, and so on. And each of this opportunity of growth has added to your experience. And it is joy because we expand in the process. And lastly, through our own growth, we contribute to the creation. By being our own best self, we help achieve the universe its purpose. Whether it's by being an artist, or a healer, or a dancer, or a teacher, by being our best self, our unique expression contributes to the source. So growth is not just for our own sake. By growth, we contribute back to the source, and we are part of the source. Now here is the issue. Growth requires change, and change is inconvenient. Any kind of change, we are biologically wired to resist change. And that obviously stands in our opportunity to grow. And that is why most people only grow accidentally. This is the phase of unconscious growth. If you look at studies, average American reads less than one book every year. Now, how much would a person grow if they are not learning at all, right? The only opportunities of growth are accidental growth opportunities which are pushed by the universe onto them. So for example, I have met so many people who were miserable in a job, but they did not have the courage to quit. And then what happens? They get fired. Or they might have been in a relationship that obviously was not working out and it was abusive. And yet they did not have the courage to say, enough is enough, let's move on. And then what happens? The partner dumps them. And these are opportunities that the universe has to push upon us because we would not take the move otherwise. So there is a leap in our consciousness that happens when we make growth a priority. And instead of being unconscious growth, it becomes conscious growth. This is when we start investing in growth. This is when we start thinking about what are the things I can learn. But there is yet another leap, and that is strategic growth. This is when you are totally invested in your growth and you are using every single opportunity to the best of its advantage. Let me talk about the journey of this strategic growth. So first, as I said, growth requires change. And the change has to begin with our internal structures. When I say internal structures, the foundation of our internal structure is our beliefs. All of us have beliefs about small things, big things, and everything. We have beliefs about the source. We have beliefs about yourself, about how we look, how smart we are, whether we will be supported if we really went after something that we really desire, and so on. And on the bedrock of these beliefs, we have emotions. Emotions are what arise when our beliefs interact with events. This is why the same event can have totally different effect in people's lives because the emotions are totally different. And it has nothing to do with the event itself. It's how people perceive the event through the filter of their beliefs. Based on emotions, we make choices. These might be small choices. These might be big choices. These include the type of work we do, our relationship with other people, our relationship with friends, family. And this also includes our spiritual beliefs. We might believe in a benevolent God. We might believe in a punishing God, or we might believe in no God at all. It's all part of the choice. And lastly, all of this crystallizes in routines. These are our habitual patterns of thinking and action. And routines become very crystallized in the sense that once you have a routine, it takes you a lot of effort to break that routine and establish a new one because they reach the cellular level of activity. Now, the inner structure creates the outer structure. When we talk about the outer structure, we have a body. It might be a healthy body, it might be a body that serves us well, or it might be otherwise. Similarly, relationships. These might be relationships that are serving us, or maybe they are not. We have finances. We have life work. This is what we do for a living. We create a mind, including the intellect and intellectual appreciation for things. And we have contribution. All of this outer structure arises from the inner structure. And as we change the inner structure, the outer structure has to change. In particular, as we begin to grow, our body and mind and relationship, they move toward a state of wholeness. So let's talk about the 5 steps to growth. If you want to be on this journey, what do you need to do? So the starting point is to examine your internal structures. Again, the beginning point here is to look at your beliefs. And beliefs are strange things because you can have beliefs about beliefs. So in that sense, the journey starts when you begin to see your beliefs as choices rather than truths. Most people never think of their beliefs as choices. In their mind, this is an absolute truth. And this is where fundamentalism comes into the picture. To a fundamentalist, the belief that they hold is an absolute truth. And you cannot even question the validity of that belief. Second, another core belief we need to have is the belief in our ability to change. What if we did not believe in our ability to change? We would never change, right? There are a lot of studies on this, and this is particularly called the mindset of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. There are 2 core beliefs about growth. The people with fixed mindset, they think you are either good at something or you are not. And these are the people who would say things like, I'm really good at math, or I'm really good at talking to people. And in their mind, if they are not really good at math or talking to people, there is very little that they can do to get better. And these types of people would rather just do something else that they think they can do. Now there's another set of mindset that's called the growth mindset. And the core of that mindset is, with application and training, you can master anything you want. Now, if you have a growth mindset, you have a fundamentally different perspective for learning and mastery. Because now all you have to do is apply yourself. Make sure you're getting the right training. And with practice and repetition, you can master whatever you want to master. So this is a core belief that we need to change if we have a fixed mindset. And lastly, this is again a very core belief. This is trusting the universe and yourself. What happens if you don't trust the universe? You will never venture out, right? And they go hand in hand. You have to trust yourself. What if you don't trust yourself? Then life is going to be a struggle because you will settle for whatever comes easy to you, right? You will never stretch yourself. So these core beliefs, we need to think about them and internalize them. The next step is have higher aspirations for yourself. See, most people never think of anything higher than what society expects of them. This includes getting basic education, getting a job, having a family, and having a comfortable sort of life. But if you really want to grow, you have to strive for something higher. And that something is purpose. Because once you start aligning with purpose and you make it the guiding principle of your life, what used to be okay before will not be okay anymore. Because you start demanding more from the situation. For example, if a person has a job, instead of asking, does this pay the bills? The person has to ask, does this fulfill me? And that is obviously a much higher standard, right? There are so many things you can do that will pay the bills, but there are so few things out there that will really fulfill you. As part of this alignment, whatever does not align with your purpose has to be either discarded or at least minimized. One problem we have with modern living is there is just so many things striving for our attention. And most people never think about what should get their attention. They just get swept in the current of life. If you look at studies, average American watches about 35 hours of TV every week. That's like a full-time job. Imagine what one could do if one could focus 35 hours of focused attention on anything that they really wanted to do. This will be a completely different world if even 50% of the people would use 30 hours a week to do something that they really want. Next step, commit to lifelong growth. This is a core commitment. You have to say, from now on to the rest of my life, I'm going to commit to growing every day. And then being strategic about it, thinking about what do I need? How can I do it better? So these are the 4 steps on that process. The first one is choosing a focus. There's a core principle here, and that is you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. As human beings, we have limited resources, whether it's our time or our attention. It's not like we have infinite resources or infinite time. So we have to focus on one thing that's going to make the biggest difference. And in terms of what will bring the most fulfillment to our own life. That is the area of focus that you start with. Second, you learn all you can about that one particular area of focus. This could be your health or your finances, your relationships, your spirituality, your contribution. It could be technology, business, whatever. Really apply yourself to learn everything about that one particular area of focus. The next is application. This is where you practice what you have learned. Many people get stuck in the second phase of learning and they never apply what they have learned. And it becomes a mental constipation. They just keep eating mentally, but never apply what they have learned. And lastly, adjust. So this is a cycle. This is not a one-time thing that you suddenly get inspired and you start doing, but a year from now, you are nowhere to be seen, right? I would like to say, commit to this single cycle for a year. So for a year, choose one area, focus on it, learn everything about it, apply things in your life and see how it goes. And then after a year, you have an opportunity to say, do I want to continue in this area or do I want to focus on something else? Next step, take necessary risks. Many people would like to grow and they would like to do great things, but they don't want to take the risk. If you don't take the risk, you will never grow to the level that you can really grow. The first part of this is learn to be comfortable with being out of control. This is why change scares us so much, because we will be out of control. There are so many people who are stuck where they are. Maybe it's a miserable job or a miserable relationship, but they would not leave it because they are scared of being out of control. And they are really good at convincing themselves that things will turn out for the worst. So they will think something like, if I quit this job and start my own business, I'll lose everything, and then I'm going to be homeless. And obviously nobody will ever hire me back. So I'm going to be broke and destitute for the rest of my life. Now, with this kind of thinking, of course, you will stay stuck. But a good measure of growth in our life is how comfortable we are with being out of control, where we don't know everything. We don't have all the answers. We don't have all the security. And still, we are willing to take the next step. Now, just to be sure, let's not kid ourselves. If you really believe that you can ever be in total control, you are delusional, right? This universe is infinite, and our powers and our resources are an infinitesimal portion of that. So thinking that we can control the world outside of us, that is madness. Second, taking risk does not mean that you keep prudence and research aside. One part of soul growth is also to understand how to take calculated risks instead of doing just stupid things, right? So do not believe in magical thinking. The way we can have a balance between risk and stupidity is by doing our own research. And second, by starting small. If you have a business idea, or if you want to share something, if you want to teach, for example, it's absolutely not necessary to quit your job and become a teacher. Why not start something online? Why not gather 5 people and teach them what you want to teach? And with small beginnings, you will get the right confidence, and also you'll get the right feedback that's needed to grow to the next level. Lastly, there are no guarantees in life. You might do all of your research, and you might try really, really hard, and still, it is quite possible that you will not succeed to the degree that you think you should. And it is all part of growth. The only thing here is, I said, to the degree that you think you should. We have a microwave mentality where we think things should be quick, they should work out exactly the way we want at a snap of a finger. And that's not how the universe works. If you sow the seed, depending on what kind of plant it is, it might take months or years to see the results. And there is just no way to shortcut the process. On the other hand, there are obviously things that we are going to try and we are going to fail completely in them. As long as we learn from these experiences, these are again growth opportunities. The last process is committing to the routines of growth. So, as I said before, routines are the most crystallized part of our life. Because routine is something you do every day, and after a while, that little bit of what you do every day amounts to a whole lot. So here is the first commitment you need to make, and that is make growth a priority before entertainment. If you are on a spiritual path or even a growth path, which is not even spiritual, you have to really think about your relationship to entertainment. Now, I'm not saying relaxation or rest, which are critical for functioning optimally. I'm talking about this mindless state of being a spectator, whether it's TV or it's social media or it's just browsing, right? You have to, again, in the past webinar I said, our time on this planet is limited. Every moment that we lose is gone forever. So in that spirit, before you turn the TV on or the computer on, think about, what did I do today to grow? Did I read a book? Did I talk to somebody who can uplift me or not? If I did not do all of these things, what am I watching this TV for? Second, make growth a part of your daily schedule. This is one point I keep stressing because I think this is really important. And try to do this the first thing in the morning, because that's when most people have the most energy and focus. If you want to invest in your spiritual growth, read something on waking up. If you want to invest in your body, exercise the first thing in the morning. If you want to learn something new or practice something, do it first thing in the morning. Next, review your growth plan and progress at least once a month. So, this is not something you do once in your lifetime and it's going to happen for you. That's not how learning works. That's not how growth works. You have to stay on target. So the checkpoint for that staying on target has to happen at least once a month. I would say make it once a week. Take 15 minutes to half an hour. Think about how did your week go? What did you learn? How can you learn more? What can you improve so that the process becomes better for you? Okay, let's do some exercises. As I said before, the starting point is our beliefs. So grab a pen and paper and write the answer to this question. What beliefs are hindering your growth? These might be beliefs in lack. These might be your fears or unworthiness. Whatever it is, write it down. Let's bring it out in the open so that we can do something about it. Next, how did you acquire these beliefs? It's very important to understand that even though you might very strongly identify with these beliefs, these are not really your beliefs in the sense that you did not create them. These have been passed on to you either through your parents or through your other family members or what you watched in TV when you were 6 and so on. But when you see the origin of these beliefs, it makes it clear that you acquired them. And since you acquired them, you have the ability to discard them. So think about, how did you acquire these beliefs? Lastly, let's turn it around. What beliefs will serve your growth? So typically these would be the exact opposites of the beliefs you identified as limiting beliefs. But feel free to write anything else down. Now, if you want to share, you can put the results of this exercise in this chat. Again, it's up to you if you want to share. Let's move on. The second part of this is process. As I said, the big changes happen when you have a process for them. First, what area of growth do you want to focus on? This has to be a single area. Second, what are the necessary risks for your growth? Lastly, what are your daily or weekly commitments? Let's take a minute. If you want to, again, type your daily or weekly commitments here in the chat, feel free to do that. Be specific about your commitments. Say, I'm going to commit to 30 minutes of this. Great. We are almost done with the workshop. So here are the next steps. The next event in this series is going to be on conscious living, and I'm going to talk about the principles and practices on July 26th. So this is 2 weeks from now at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will send out a link to you through Meetup. And the last thing, we are actually moving away from meetup.com because I want to keep these resources free, and Meetup specifically will not help me do that. So I'm working on creating my own website through which you can subscribe for events, and then you can get notifications. If you want to sign up for the mailing list, the link is here. This is https://cutt.ly/coi2. Okay, let's take questions. So any questions about the material that's covered today, feel free to put it in the chat. Yes, it's always best to start on one area of focus. So a couple of questions. Are you starting the new website on July 26th? Actually, it will be available before that. It should be up and running in a couple of days from now. I will send you a notification. Question. How are limiting beliefs formed? Well, it's all part of conditioning, and in particular, growing up. Typically, these beliefs are passed on from parents to children. So unfortunately, our parents might have limiting beliefs themselves, and they just pass it on to their children. But there are other forms of conditioning. So for example, social conditioning that could happen from our teachers, our school, TV, and so on. Question, how do I prevent burning out from concentrating on my goal? Make sure you have the adequate rest and rejuvenation built in your cycle. It's not just going at something 24 hours a day without taking rest. So, it's a balance between activity and rest, and make sure you prioritize rest. Question, how to bounce back when there is failure from a growth mindset? Your fundamental view of what failure is has to change. If I try something and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean I'm a failure. All it means is this particular approach that I tried did not work, and that's okay. I'm free to try many things, and usually only a few things. Nobody has 100% success rate. If you look at baseball, the best hitters miss 7 times out of 10, and yet and still they make millions. So not everything that you are going to try is going to work out, but it's always good to have this in mind before you start. Question from Katie: should we try to influence others who we see as lacking purpose, or is their journey up to them? We should not force it. We cannot see what's their journey and their path. So it's always best to focus on your own journey and being an example. If they really want to change and they have an example, they might. But again, don't try to live people's lives. Let them live it. Question: can you expand on what you mean by necessary risks? To go to the next level, you always have to expand yourself and stretch yourself, and that is the necessary risk. So for example, let's say you are really good at communicating, but you are working for this company, and you feel that if you started your own business and went in business for yourself, that will, first of all, bring more passion and purpose in your life because you are now your own boss. It might also bring a better lifestyle. You might be able to work from anywhere and so on. So that is the necessary risk. If you don't take the necessary risk, you will stay stuck in the situation that you are in right now for decades. Question from Donna: I feel as though I have a block that prevents me understanding what my beliefs are and why I seem to procrastinate. You have to look at your life objectively, and you can very easily identify the beliefs that are operating. So look at the choices that you make every day and ask yourself the question, why did I make that choice? And if you understand why you made the choice, the belief is right there because it came before the choice. Question from someone: if I feel wronged by someone, taken advantage of, what is the appropriate way to respond? The appropriate way is always forgiveness. Let the past be gone. Forget whatever anybody did to you. In this moment, your power is right now. And the only way you can stand in your power is not getting your attention drained by your past. So, forgive them, read some books on forgiveness, and move on. Michelle: how to handle family when change occurs? Can it affect relationships? It obviously can. And the question, there's a balance between your purpose and relationships. So, maybe your relationships are already aligned with your purpose, and that's great. That means that everybody is moving in the same direction. If they are not, then you have a choice to make, or you have a balance to strike. How can you grow while maintaining your relationship? Or if it is completely impossible, you have to think about what is the purpose of this relationship which is not allowing me to grow? And how can I make it better? Question from Dora: any suggestions for staying motivated? I would say make it a habit of doing something the first thing in the morning and do it for 60 days. And that is going to become a pattern. We try to make motivation such a big thing that it becomes unmanageable. On the other hand, all it is choosing the next activity in our calendar. And that just wake up 30 minutes early, do the thing you want to do the first thing in the morning, and do it for 60 days. Question from Lara: how to get rid of feelings? And sometimes, what's the best way to release them? Is it tears and crying, or is it healthy to allow these feelings? I would say it might be better to talk to a therapist. But in general, any way you express them may be healthy for you. But again, it depends on your temperament. And I would say it's better to get professional help. Yes, writing about them, writing it on a piece of paper, and then burning that paper is one way to get rid of them. Question: how can we change beliefs which are set in stone? The moment you understand that these are not set in stone, that's the doorway. Because now you can change them. So every time when you operate from that belief, it's just coming back and to the awareness and saying, I am making the choice from this belief which does not serve me. How can I have the opposite belief and go from there? Question: if a child is sheltered, what limiting beliefs will that child develop? Being too protected can be limiting in itself, because you have a false belief that somebody other than you is always going to take care of. And the universe, in its wisdom, is going to show you the opposite experience. Question from Margaret: what if your limiting beliefs arise from your own personal experience and not from what you were taught by others? Very good question. But again, our own experience is a very small part of reality. So, we might have had an experience which is completely not representative of true reality. And actually, none of the experiences are, because our senses can only understand a very, very small fraction of reality. So, the way you get past that is by exposing yourself to different beliefs. Read books. Look at lives of people who have gone through what you are going through and see how they handled it. Question from Bob: would other names for life purpose be vocation or calling? Yes. Question from Kimberly: how do you accomplish these things while dealing with mental illness? Just for physical illness, get help. Specifically, there might be things that will work. For example, being in nature, getting on an exercise program, making sure your diet and your routines are built for rest. Question from Roxanne: is it necessary to remove negative people from your life? I would highly, highly recommend it. Why would you, just like from your food, if you found out that you are allergic to something, would you keep eating that same thing? No, right? Because it doesn't make sense. Similarly, if there are people and all they do is bring negativity into your life, there is no sense in being around them. So, if you can, I would say get rid of them. Find some better people. Question, are your lectures every other Sunday? So their frequency is going to change. We have one coming up in 2 weeks, and after that it's going to be a monthly lesson on the soul lesson series. So there will be one lesson coming out every month. Question, how to get rid of distractions such as social media, but if you need to use them for business? I would like to challenge your assumption that they really help you in your business, specifically Facebook. So lots of advertisers are dumping Facebook because if you have a free account and you are not really advertising with them, they don't really even show your posts to people. And I don't actually use Facebook at all. So, but again, I do use YouTube. So see what works for you. But again, many of these things are assumptions and they are hype that's built by the media platform rather than reality. So also look at your results. What are the level of results that you are getting from these different platforms? And then feel free to eliminate the ones that are not producing many results. Question, when forgiving someone, do I need to do it in person or is it an internal act? It has to be at least an internal act. If you are in a good relationship with that person, it always helps to close the loop and do it in person. Yes, forgiving does not mean not learning from that experience. So just because you forget does not mean that you don't learn and you let it happen again and again. If somebody is abusing you, the right attitude is not to forgive them and let the abuse continue. You have to also stop the abuse. Question from Hal. My constant focus on self-growth at times causes me to overlook other needs. Is my highest priority self-healing necessary first? Strike a balance. We are, at the same time, body, mind, emotion, intellect. These are not separate things. So you cannot sacrifice one for the sake of another. And there are times when you just need to focus on one because that area has become a pain point. So again, trust in yourself and strike a right balance. We have 5 more minutes. Any other questions? Question, if forgiving someone you haven't seen many years, is it wise to reconnect and share that you have now forgiven? If you feel it's up to what the nature of offense was, but I leave it up to you how communicative you want to be with your forgiveness. You might send a letter and that's the end of it. You might give them a phone call. Again, it's what you feel comfortable with. Question from Karen. I think you asked, I have 2 purposes. I don't know which one to choose. If they are equally important, it doesn't really matter which one you want to choose. Toss a coin, pick one. Question, what platform will you be using for your next lectures? It is going to be still YouTube, except the communication mechanism for events is going to be different. Yes, Lara, go ahead with people who respond. I understand that people sign up for things and then something happens, some other priorities or changes in their life, and that's okay. We have a couple of more minutes. Any last questions? Question from Donna. Will you be sharing a recording of today's session? Yes. So typically what happens is it takes few days to a week for this to be edited and re-recorded, and then it will be available on YouTube. In terms of the group sessions, the applications are now closed, but if you already registered, there should be a facilitator who will get in touch with you to get your group started. Question from Bijan. How can you make the volume high? So from my side, the volume that I have is at the highest. I think it's up to your laptop or whatever desktop you are using. I encourage using headphones for that reason. Thanks everybody. Thanks for being on this workshop. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Question about, will you contact the facilitators for the mock meeting? I am still looking at my schedule and see if I can do it. One thing I want to make sure is that the facilitators are not too dependent on me, because that defeats the purpose of their own growth. So there's a balance between getting my help and figuring out things on your own. Thank you, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.